Welcome everyone on Jewflix session episode 8. We're here today with one of our board members, Shimshon, who is going to touch a word about. So the name of the topic is It's Only Just Bread, but he will develop a bit more on that. He's an amazing activist in the South African Union of Jewish Students, and he will tell you a lot more about the topic. Also, if you want to watch the older videos, you can find them on our YouTube. And last thing, if you have any questions, feel free to write them on the chat on YouTube Live or in the Zoom link now. Shimshon, the floor is all yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's joining us over Zoom and YouTube. Wow, this is exciting. So our topic for today is, it's just a piece of bread. We're going to be examining the psychological aspects of what chametz is and what does it mean to us. Right. Let's get started. So it's just a piece of bread. That's what we think. And that's what it looks like to most of us. That's what we think chametz can be. And we know in this pressured time, Pesach with COVID-19, it's got to be, it's going to be a little bit different, and we have to make it different. We have to turn it into something special with these unique circumstances that we're facing in at the moment. So what is chametz? Let's start by that. We know that it's bread, yes, bread, it's cookies, it's pasta, it's the best chocolate Oreo cake that you've seen in your life. It's a whole lot of things. Even stuff as random as lotions can become a chametz if it's got like something like malt in it. So really, in Jewish law, it says to us that the halakhic definition of chametz is called leaven. It's the variety of grains. It can be wheat, spelt, barley, oats, and rye. How does it become a chametz? Very simply, you put the grain down, you let it get wet, let it ferment for about 18 minutes, and bam, there's your chametz. But now, I want to draw your attention. If you look over there, we see about chametz that if even, read with me now, if even a 1 to 1,000,000 ratio of chametz is mixed into kosher for Passover food, it is still unfit to be consumed for Pesach. Even the smallest amount of chametz is not permitted on Pesach. Now that is what I want to call overkill, because nothing in Judaism is that hectic. I mean, we don't deal with kosher food. We don't deal with any of these kinds of things. But at the same time, we understand that you're not allowed to see the chametz. You're not even allowed to own the chametz. But that's just taking it to a new level. So we have to understand, what does God want from us at this point in time? And you know, people take this very, very seriously. This cleaning up for Pesach, it happens, and it happens with a little bit of a bomb. It can be pretty hectic. You don't want to get in the way of people when they're doing their bedikat chametz, they're checking for the chametz, which we're so excited for tomorrow night. But still, what does it mean? What is the deeper dimension to this? And how does it affect us in our everyday life? So the Kabbalists tell us that if a person is careful to avoid even the tiniest amount of chametz on Pesach, that person will be spared unintentional sin throughout the entire year. Now that's a pretty hefty vow. That's coming from the famous mystic Rabbi Yitzchak Luria. But still, we need to understand, how can you make this promise? What does it mean? And how can we actualize this? So what it comes down to, I think, is a deep sense of personal reflection. Especially now, we're all alone at home, where we've been isolated, so to say, from the world, at least in a physical way. And we have the ability to look at ourselves and pause and ask, how did I get here? What happened to our grand dreams? What happened to the smaller things too? How's that diet plan that I was thinking about? Have I kept to it? When I see that cheesecake sitting over there in that wedding or that place, or right now it's just sitting in the cupboard, maybe because we're not going out. Do we just take a break and leave it alone? Or maybe we gave it a little bit of a nibble. How's the gym going? Have we, when we weren't in lockdown, did we go to gym every day that we said we would? What about the spiritual side? Did I pray every day that I promised God I would? Was I able to take a step further to growing, to keep kosher, to experiencing a Shabbat? What happened? You know? And at some point, we take a glimpse at ourselves and we wonder, how did I land so far off the mark? You can see that woman, she's just wondering that, like, how did she get there? And so I want us to think of, you know, when we look at ourselves at a somewhat superficial level, it can be challenging to see what's really going on. For example, now, if you look over here at this dumpster heap over here, it looks quite, it's a mess. But if you look at it, each packet, it's closed, they're there, they have all the rubbish is inside. But if we were to unpack it, we'd actually be disgusted. We'd see that there's all this filth that's happening around there, and it would drive us somewhat back. But you know, that could be us in a sense. That when we take a deeper dive into who we are, it could be a little bit overwhelming to see what's happened to us. And I'm not saying, God forbid, to get depressed, but just to look and acknowledge where we are and what's happening. So, you know, sometimes we can let this garbage pile up. Sometimes it's for half an hour, where it just so happens where we like overslept and we missed an important meeting or something. Or sometimes it can happen for years, where we just don't reflect and understand what's happening. You know, I was supposed to be awakening the dawn, waking up early every morning, not the other way around. You know, what happened here? What happened to my life? So there's really two main directions that we can take with this. Which path will you take? That's the question. And it's quite a hard one, actually. How are we going to negotiate dealing with these challenges? Because you see, this is the true chametz of our lives. Where are we going to go? So the first path to the left is maybe the easier path. We can give up. As our sages say to us, they can be yayush, in modern Hebrew, mit yaesh. They could despair on ever having a future and say, you know what? Everything I've been doing, it's just not working out. I'm not who I thought I could be. And maybe I should be trying something else. Maybe I should just like rethink about my whole life and see, where am I going? What am I doing? Maybe I'm wrong. Or we could stand up and take the second path. Did I actually say that? I thought that I could be a moral, ethical person, and that's who I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm operating right now with 5 to 20% of my potential, and that's not okay. That's what we need to tell ourselves, that we can improve. And this is where Judaism has something to offer, which is unparalleled. Our sage, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, says to us that this is the turning point, that you can't give up. There's nothing, you're at a down point. You're in this valley. It's low, it's dark, it's gray, like that picture right there. But the truth is that there's no room to despair. You can't do this now. God's invested in you. To despair now is actually to have a lack of understanding in this value of who you are and of what you can become. You know, this valley, this low point, it's actually God shouting at us, kind of. He's trying to say, wake up, remember who you can be. Remember what I created you for, to actualize what you can become, to live in your greatness. Now, this can be sometimes hard for us to hear, because we don't feel it. Life is like this, you know. We're in these ups and downs. You know, the heart goes up and down, and it can be very, very challenging. And sometimes we almost, I want to say, we kind of wait for something to take place. before we act. And sometimes that can be subconscious. And so what I mean is like this, that you need an external factor to kind of push you before you push yourself back up to that spike. And if we look at Pesach, we see that very clearly within the story, because what happens is that the Jews they're in Egypt, and they have to take a sheep and take its blood and put it on their doorposts. And because of that, their actions does God pass over their houses, hence the name. But what that's saying is that we have to take the first step. I want to say that it's kind of like we're a lot of us are students here, and sometimes we find that we're students, we kind of make a little bit of a mess, and what we do is we wait until the last minute before we actually act and start studying before the exam. Sometimes it's the day before, sometimes the week before, but the point's the same. We need to do that consistent work. And if we're to do that, if we were to not waste that final push, then I think we could really grow a lot more and a lot quicker. Because, and we have to go to that internal, we have to go to the internal blood, to that internal fire that's there, that's waiting to push ourselves up, to grow. And this is a message with which modern psychology is finally catching on to. It's taken a couple hundred years, but it's there. Professor Carol Dweck of Stanford University wrote the most incredible book. I've read it and it's just changed my life. It's called, it's a #1 bestseller. Bill Gates said it's an absolute must read, and if you got that much money, you must know what you're talking about. And so what she deals with over there is these two kinds of personas with which we have. We could have a fixed mindset. And that's what Rabbi Nachman was telling us to avoid. This fixed mindset will say to us like this. Right here we can see. It'll say to us, failure is the limit of my abilities. I'm either good at it or I'm not. When I'm frustrated, I give up. But that's the easy way out. That's not what we're supposed to be living. We're supposed to be going in for the growth mindset, where we understand that challenges, they help me to grow. They help me to become who I'm meant to be, to fully actualize my potential. And that's the deal, That's when we're able to tap into this understanding that we're not born with stagnant, that it's actually my effort and my attitude that determine my abilities, and not the opposite, that I don't like to be challenged and that my potential is predetermined. We have been given this gift of what can sometimes look like a valley in our lives, but it's really the greatest opportunity to become the greatest person that we can be. And now that's hard. It's hard to grow, but once you've made up your mind and you take the steps to actualizing yourself, things can turn around, and we shouldn't wait for those external factors to get us in there. So what I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to play a scene for you from Black Panther, and we're going to analyze it for a second and see what it means to us in our lives.
My name is King T'Challa, son of King T'Chaka. I am the sovereign ruler of the nation of Wakanda. And for the first time in our history, we will be sharing our knowledge and resources with the outside world. Wakanda will no longer watch from the shadows. We cannot. We must not. We will work to be an example of how we as brothers and sisters on this earth should treat each other. Now more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth. More connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another, as if we were one single tribe.
With all due respect, King T'Challa, what can a nation of farmers have to offer the rest of the world?
But how? What can we do? If we think about that scene, we see there that there's a sovereign from a new nation that's appearing at the UN, and he's coming and talking about how he's going to contribute to the world. And what that is, that's us, actually. We are the sovereign. We are the sovereign of our lives. And sometimes we don't act that way. We kind of give in to like what we feel like doing, and we don't actualize our full potential. We don't share with the world our gifts, everything that each of us has, that we are miyuchad in Hebrew, we are unique, we are echad, we are one with these special talents and capabilities. And you know what, it gets worse, that even once you've decided that you're going to share with everybody, then you're going to get somebody that seems to know what they're doing. I mean, they're in the UN over there, and they're going to say, what can you contribute? What can you give to us? I mean, you're just like an ordinary guy, or you're just an ordinary girl. Like, yeah, okay, you've done this and this and this, but what, you can't really contribute. And that's when we have to stand up. That's when we have to look ourselves in the eye and make that decision that we are going to move forward and contribute. We're going to give, and we are going to make this world the world that it was created to be. And so let's see how we can do this. But how? Here's 4 tips which that I've compiled that I think we could all look at and try and implement in our own lives. So tomorrow, when we all come in to check chametz, very exciting, we're going to take a torch, a candle. We're going to take a little candle, a single flame, and we're going to go around our homes, and we're going to search for this chametz. We're going to search in between all the little cracks and the little spaces and make sure that there's nothing there. Now, our sages in the Gemara, in the Talmud, they ask, why do we have to use this candle? What does it mean? What's the significance of having but a small flame that's there? And this Svat Emet in the early 1900s, he says to us that this means that when it comes down to making progress and doing growth within our lives, embracing the growth mindset, as Professor Dweck would say, we should know not to take on anything too big and too quickly. We have to take a small flame, go into the small little corners over there and see how we can change. Put a small amount of light in. Do one small thing. For some of us, that's going to mean to wake up earlier. They can get up, they can make use of their day. For some of us, it's going to be to take steps towards keeping maybe a Shabbat, where maybe don't keep the whole Shabbat, but rather just take a break. Don't use your phone on Saturday. Give it a little bit of a rest. For some of us who are struggling with kosher, try and when you go out, don't have meat when you're going out. And for every person to their own level, we all have different spaces with which we can and which we have, I almost want to say, the obligation to grow. And so now, how do we do this? In what manner do we go about doing this? So the Ohev Israel, he says to us, this is an 17th century Hasidic rabbi who's just, his work has been groundbreaking, and psychology is realizing it now as well. He says that we have to echo the message of the torch. We have to become a flame. We have to go on fire. We have to be passionate people, that when we have something to do, we do it. We go in there, we go at it. We're not like, here comes Pesach. Let's just wait for the next one. Let's just wait for this whole virus story to blow over and we'll carry on with our lives. No, we're going to take action, and we're going to take action now. We're going to be excited. We're going to be driven to actualize our potential, to see where we're going on, not get upset by it, but to be almost excited that we have this room to grow in it. Now, with this, it's something which is, it's hard. It's easier said than done, because now of all times, we're secluded from people. We don't have our leaders there cheering us on. We're not even allowed to really see our friends that can help us in this journey. And it looks like we've been abandoned. It looks like we're alone. But you should know, God says to you, I want you to know that you're not alone. And I'd like to share with you a story. I have permission from the person I happen to share it with you. So it was at actually this old lady's funeral. The man's name was Moshe Levi. And so Moshe, he was what we call bright-sighted, to be euphemistic. Sadly, he was born blind. And what that left him with was this intense drive to be able to be independent, to go and do things on his own. And so what he would do was every day he would, and he lived in New York, and he lives in New York actually. And so he would walk to school every day, and his mother would hold his hand, and they'd walk to school together. They did this every day for about like the first 15 years of his life. And now he's a teenager. He wants to be independent. He wants to be able to live a life where he can maintain his own boundaries and to be able to exist on his own without his mother holding his hand. But of course, she said, Moshe, there is no way that you will be walking to school on your own. It's just too dangerous, sweetie. I can't risk that. And so she would take him, and they'd go there. He would count the steps between each street. He would wait at each stop street to cross with his mother and eventually arrive at the school. And one day now, his mother packs his backpack, puts his lunch, and lets him, attaches it to his back. And she says to him, Moshe, you're ready. I believe in you. You can do this. You can walk to school by yourself. And so he is so excited. He doesn't even know where to put himself. He's been waiting for this moment his whole life where he's finally going to get to go to school on his own. And he gets everything together and he walks out the house. He feels ecstatic that he's able to finally go. And he's walking down the street and he remembers to stop at each boulevard, wait for someone kind enough to walk him across each street, counts each step, makes sure that he's on the right path, and he finally arrives at school. And there the friendly guard Jerry greets him. Hello, Moshe. So nice to see you. And he's there and he's busy gloating to himself inside when he looks up and he hears Jerry, the guard, say, Mrs. Levy, good to see you. And he feels a whoosh of a bicycle drive past. And he understands that his mother was there behind him the whole time, making sure that he was safe. So what this means, everyone, is that we have to know that we're never alone, that whatever paths we take, whatever decisions we make, God is going to be there with us. And even though it looks like we're alone, and that we don't have anybody to guide us, and that this Pesach Seder, some of us are going to have to sit around the table and ask ourselves the 4 questions. We should know that God is there. God is right behind us. God is on that bicycle, listening to us, watching us, making sure that we are safe. Because God knows us best, and God knows that we can do this, that we can actualize our potential, that we can remove the chametz of our lives.
Thank you so much, Shimshon. That was, first of all, an amazing speech. I love the energy. It was really amazing. Thank you for sharing with us. If anyone has any questions, you can either ask them in the chat or unmute yourselves, guys. Shimshon is the GOAT. He's the only comment we have at the moment. So I would say it was a pretty good session. You can unmute yourselves, ask questions to Shimshon directly. And you can always reach out to WUJS or to Sojus to ask any other questions. This week we have 2 more episodes coming up. We have one with another South African union member, Gabi, who is going to speak to us about turning darkness into strength. And we will also have a session just before Pesach about quarantine starter pack, which is especially coming with 3 days of Yom Tov and Shabbat following up, how to fill up the time and make the most out of it. So yeah, thank you very much again, Shimshon. It was a great pleasure to have you, and see you soon on the next sessions.
Thank you, everyone. Really a privilege, and please God, we should merit to have this as the last one, as the last Pesach alone, and we should be united together.